world is stunned tonight by the surprise resignation of Apple chief executive Steve Jobs.
Well, the wording of the announcement raises new concerns about Jobs' health. Brandi Hitt is live in the KTLA newsroom with more on this developing story. Brandi.
Sharon, Micah, he is the face, the vision, and the voice behind one of the biggest companies in the world. Steve Jobs' health problems have been known for years, but he's not saying if that's why he's stepping down as CEO of Apple.
Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone.
Apple announced today that CEO Steve Jobs is resigning effective immediately.
Amazing. And the screen literally floats in midair.
The 55-year-old who co-founded Apple in his garage has faced a string of health problems in recent years, including pancreatic cancer, which forced him to take several leaves of absence. We asked LA Times business columnist David Lazarus about the impact his absence will have on Apple.
Can Apple continue at the same level of success without Steve Jobs as CEO?
Well, that's the big $64 question. Steve Jobs is not just the visionary-in-chief at Apple, but you could argue that he's the biggest visionary in all of Silicon Valley.
Jobs was behind everything from the Apple computer in 1984 to the iPod, the iPhone, and now the iPad.
This is what it looks like. Again, you can just pick this thing up, it almost floats.
Steve Jobs, first and foremost, was the guy who took the risk.
But Jobs isn't fully leaving Apple. Apple released this statement saying, quote, in his new role as chairman of the board, Steve will continue to serve Apple with his unique insights, creativity, and inspiration. Tim Cook, Apple's chief operating officer who filled in for Jobs during his second medical leave in January, is taking over as CEO.
Any time that Steve Jobs had to step away for a prolonged period, Tim Cook stepped in, ran the show, did it perfectly well. I think shareholders and probably investors as well will look at Cook as a good sign of continuity.
Well, we've just gotten these numbers in, and Apple stock did drop about $20 a share in after-hours trading once this news came out to about $3.55 a share. David Lazarus says this shouldn't have any impact when it comes to the iPhone 5 or the release of the iPad 3. Where this could have an impact of Steve Jobs no longer being CEO are in future endeavors, creativity, where Apple goes with new products. Live in the newsroom, Brandi Hitt, KTLA 5 News. Back to you in the studio.
And Steve Jobs stunned the tech world late today by announcing his immediate resignation as Apple's chief executive.
The sudden move has triggered new concerns about the health of Steve Jobs and the future of the company he transformed. KTLA's Brandi Hitt live in the newsroom with more. Brandi.
Micah, Apple's stock has already dropped down $19 a share in after-hours trading to $357 a share. This all happened as news spread that Steve Jobs was stepping down as CEO of one of the most valuable companies in the world.
He is the face, the voice, and the vision
Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone.
behind Apple.
Amazing. And the screen literally floats in midair.
Today, Steve Jobs, the man who co-founded Apple in his garage, announced he's resigning as CEO.
He made clear that if any time ever came when he felt like he couldn't meet the duties of CEO, he would step aside.
But the 56-year-old is not saying whether his string of recent health problems is playing a role. In 2008, Jobs was thinner after his bout with pancreatic cancer. He had a liver transplant and has taken several leaves of absence. Northridge Hospital oncologist Dr. Walid Arnott says he can only speculate about Jobs' condition.
The biggest concern is that people who have liver transplant for a cancer is that if you give them immunosuppression, they will have a chance that the cancer can come back.
Apple fans call it an end of an era.
Today, for the first time ever, I'd like to let Macintosh speak for itself.
From creating the Macintosh computer in 1984,
Hello, I am Macintosh.
Jobs was also behind the iPod, iPhone, and iPad. Many wonder whether Apple can continue its high level of success without him.
That's the big $64 question. Steve Jobs is not just the visionary-in-chief at Apple, but you could argue that he's the biggest visionary in all of Silicon Valley.
But Jobs isn't fully leaving. This statement from Apple reads, quote, in his new role as chairman of the board, Steve will continue to serve Apple with his unique insights, creativity, and inspiration. Tim Cook, Apple's chief operating officer, is taking over as CEO.
Any time that Steve Jobs had to step away for a prolonged period, Tim Cook stepped in. I think shareholders and probably investors as well will look at Cook as a good sign of continuity.
And many tech analysts believe Jobs' departure as CEO will not affect the upcoming release of the iPhone 5 or the iPad 3, but it could have an effect on future endeavors. Live in the newsroom, Brandi Hitt, KTLA 5 News. Back to you in the studio.